Big Think is a website on the electric computer machine that the kids use. You guys are all pretty familiar. It just has almost 7 million views, which is a lot. And that's what led to that debate in Kentucky. And the reason I went there, I went into the lion's den in Kentucky, was to show as many people who are interested in the reasons why we know the Earth is extraordinarily old, and why we embrace the process of science that has enabled us to have conferences like this, with lights and carpeting and textiles and chairs and everything. And so I just like to point out to everybody that the Answers in Genesis organization there in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, their real goal, or somewhere deep within their structure, is indoctrinating kids. And the idea is to have things that look like science questions, science tests, biology tests, paleontology tests. But at the end of every one of them, it says, oh, the Earth is 6,000 years old, by the way. By the way, everything you can observe in nature, your common sense, everything that the process of science has given us, is to be ignored for some reason. And this was this still frame is from a news report in Cincinnati, which is literally across the river from this museum, they call it, in Kentucky. And it captures this moment where this kid comes in, wow, this is enlightening, this is fantastic. So you may not know this, but in the museum, by the way, if you go to a regular museum, they have things from the past. They have things, artifacts. I mean, I'm not making this up. If you see dinosaur bones, or if you see seashells from the Permian Basin, walking around there in the oil field in West Texas, there's seashells on the ground, fossilized seashells. You don't have to dig at all. They're so common. They promote the idea that none of that stuff is real. That's blown down. And they're all so proud of it. Oh man, I remember, I just remember my feet being so cold. But when it's cold, the air is dense and you really get the wind turbines going. There's enough wind in West Texas to run the United States, if we could just get the energy from there to where we need it. And so I drove, right now I'm living in New York, I don't have a car, but I drove the Nissan Leaf for 3 years. After you have an electric car, you'll just never go back. They're so much quieter, and you never have to put gas in them. And so, just as we know how many toilets are going to flush at the Super Bowl during halftime, we know where everybody's car is parked. By we, I mean engineers. Know where everybody's city planners know where everybody's car is parked. We know where it is. So we could hypothetically move energy from one set of cars to another as the sun goes across the United States. In the morning when the wind blows, in the evening when the wind blows, you capture that energy and put it in places like people's car. And there really is, I'm not trying to creep you out, but there really is something called a bipolar battery. It doesn't like change its mind all the time. It's the way it works. And then I personally am very excited about the liquid metal battery. This is a battery that runs hot on purpose. I don't know if you noticed, but the big limitation with chemical batteries is when they get warm, they can't hold the energy that they can when they're cold. So we could have these enormous batteries under buildings like this. Oh, by the way, liquid metal means molten. So it's a layer of molten magnesium, like mag wheels on a car, and a layer of molten antimony, or antimony, the one that's next to tin on the periodic table. And they're separated by a layer of salt, mostly like table salt with a little calcium chloride, I guess, hilariously sprinkled in. And they run hot on purpose. So you'd have them you don't want to drive a car with molten metal in the back seat. I don't know if anybody's tried it, I just have a bad feeling about it. And then we would distribute this energy through some new smart grid that your students are going to figure out. And we could change the world. And I met Rick Smalley from Rice University, who, right on, Rick Smalley, Rice University, he was one of the discoverers of Buckminster fullerenes, of buckyballs, nanotubes. And he talked all the time about creating a transmission line that made of nanotubes, and he says it would have very, very low electrical resistance. It's as though the electrons fall asleep at one end of the tube, have a dream, and wake up at the other end with no electrical resistance. Furthermore, when these transmission lines, if they existed, get warm, the resistance goes down. It's the opposite of current transmission lines. When they get warm, they sag, their cross-section gets smaller, and they get even warmer. Yeah, so if we could solve those problems, we could change the world. Now, these are technological solutions to climate change, technological ways to address climate change. But at the rate we're going, I don't think that's going to be enough. Technological solutions are not going to do it. First of all, they don't exactly exist right now. Sort of an issue. And the other thing is, I don't know that we can get these ideas distributed fast enough. So we're probably going to have some government regulation akin to what went on in World War II. World War II, you couldn't just go buy tires. You couldn't just go buy gasoline. You couldn't just go buy fresh food. People had to make changes in the way they lived, and they did. And so for this model of how we might also have regulations, I offer you that bastion of bleeding heart liberal blue state thought, Alaska. Wait, if you're not familiar with Alaska, you think you guys are conservative? No. You know, 3 Texases will fit in Alaska. I don't know if you know that story. They're very proud of that. Oh, man. And I am so old. How old are you? I'm so old. I remember when my dad got a 49-star flag. There were several months where the U.S. had 49 states. Alaska was admitted, but not Hawaii yet. Anyway, I don't know if you know this, but in Alaska they have, by law, a way to redistribute the wealth from their oil and gas reserves through something called the Alaska Permanent Fund. And the Permanent Fund now, which has been managed since 1977, maybe it's 1976, anyway, about that, right in the disco era, to give you some perspective. Now the fund is worth $42 million, and the rule is you have to live there. You have to live in Alaska, and you can be a newborn, or you can be over 100 years old, and everybody this year will get almost $2,000. Redistributing the wealth in Alaska. Now they do this is a top-down thing. This is government regulation. This is the man giving you money. It works in Alaska. So my colleagues and I, people who are concerned about climate change, propose we would have, by the way, 50 states on the flag, 50 stars. We have a way to just redistribute wealth this way and to regulate people. And you may have heard of it, it's the Internal Revenue Service. They're the second thing you can count on after dying. So the proposal among people who are study this problem carefully is that we would have what we call a carbon fee. We, of course, would never use the word tax. That would be an evil word. No tax. It would be a fee. So the more carbon dioxide you produce and put in the atmosphere, the more fee, the higher the fee you pay. And don't tell me this can't be done, because they do it in Alaska, and we do collect income tax here in the United States. Anyway, rich people, it turns out, make a lot more carbon dioxide than middle-class people. Rich people have 2 homes, 7 homes apparently, several Cadillacs, several big cars, several sport utility vehicles. People who make more carbon dioxide would pay a higher fee. And right now, the estimate is it would be an extra 10 cents a gallon. 10 cents a gallon? Ah! Meanwhile, you order your triple latte, triple shot latte, skinny, no whip, whatever, yeah. 10 cents, you don't even notice. So, what this would do, if we did this, you guys, is we would, fossil fuels would cost more. And by the way, the calculus or the computing of stuff, of goods imported from Asia on ships that make carbon dioxide in their engines, that would be added to the import tariff or the import cost because they would be producing carbon dioxide. And so this would affect the way people ship things to the United States, the way things are manufactured elsewhere. And it would influence other governments, other countries, to adopt the same thing. Here's my claim, by the way. If the United States were out in front on climate change legislation, climate change action, everybody else would follow. You would not have this, I don't know how else to describe it, whining. Well, India is producing extra carbon dioxide in their oil stacks, and Nigeria is, just stop it, okay? If the U.S. were out in front, everybody would be going along, and there would not be this whining about who's making things worse faster. And so fossil fuels would cost a little bit more. The middle class would have more money. The middle class would get money back from this scheme. And then, of course, the investment in renewables would be extraordinary. People would just jump on it, making wind and solar and distributing that electricity economically. People would get it. So he's selling his house, and he's living in a rental house at the end of the street. I'm kicking his implements right now. But when he moves over, he's moving about a mile away to this new house, and that'll be tough. It's going to have a swimming pool. I think, I don't know, but you know, Ed works all the time. I don't know if you know who he is. He's an actor. He's in every show ever made. And I think his wife is like, Ed, can we just live like normal people? I think that's what happened. So they're moving to a much bigger house where they don't have to recycle lint. And, you know. So, yes, man in red.
Hi, my wife is a 9th grade biology teacher.
Right on.
And she wants to know what you would do if you were in the classroom to get students more engaged and interested in science and without a lot of funding.
What's the last part? Without a lot of what?
Funding.
Funding. Oh yeah. Well, what did you love about your favorite teacher? What did you love about your favorite professor? Their passion, right? So tell your wife to let her passion come through. And they'll get it. If you're excited about it, the kids in general will get excited about it. Yes, you're going to have people that are unreachable. But if you're excited about it, kids will get excited. And, you guys are in the business. I'm an informal educator. I'm on the other side. But if you set expectations that can't be